a gentleman called Atik Mohammed brought Wontumi to my office. I was then working in the inside.
PNC is Atik Mohammed?
Yes.
Okay.
He brought Wontumi to my office.
Okay.
He was going through some problems and so on. And indeed, Wontumi was in my office 2 or 3 times a week over a long period of time. And that was long before he became regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party. And I've met him a few times. The last time was about 3 months ago when I went to eat somewhere and he showed up. And he was very, very confident that he was not going to go to jail. And I wouldn't state the reasons he gave because that may be prejudicial. So I wouldn't state the reasons he gave why he was so confident that he was not going to go to jail. So he's my friend. My problem is this, and my brother Collins had said so, that the case is a political case because he happens to be chairman of the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region. That's problematic. You understand? That is to suggest that a chairman of a party in the party stronghold cannot commit a crime. And that if he commits a crime and he's tried, it becomes a political case. That's a huge problem.
Well, not necessarily. Okay.
Explain to me.
Whenever I say my PENDREAM TV, PENDREAM TV there, I see them, yopo.
Okay, see, I've sought my clarity. Please come in.
Okay. I mean, like Collins, I suspect that I have a right to describe Wontumi as a friend. I recall that more than 25 years ago, a gentleman called Atik Mohammed brought Wontumi to my office. I was then working in the inside.
PNC is Atik Mohammed?
Yes.
Okay.
He brought Wontumi to my office.
Okay.
He was going through some problems and so on. And indeed, Wontumi was in my office 2 or 3 times a week over a long period of time. And that was long before he became regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party. And I've met him a few times. The last time was about 3 months ago when I went to eat somewhere and he showed up. And he was very, very confident that he was not going to go to jail. And I wouldn't state the reasons he gave because that may be prejudicial. So I wouldn't state the reasons he gave why he was so confident that he was not going to go to jail. So he's my friend. Okay.
It won't be prejudicial anymore, Kwesi, because the judgment is out now.
Pardon?
The judgment is out now.
Process.
No, it hasn't been appealed yet.
I know what I don't want to say.
Okay, that's fine.
I know what I don't want to say.
I understand.
What he told me.
I take him.
And he told me that in the presence of 3, 4 other friends.
So,
you
that's
understand?
fine.
So I wouldn't say that now.
All right.
I would presume that what he told me was in confidence.
That's true.
And I'll keep the confidence. However, I think that, look, we must approach this case from the position of law. Okay? This case must be approached from the position of law. And the law is that any person against whom charges are brought against should be given every opportunity to defend themselves. They have a right to remain silent. They have a right to engage lawyers of their choice and so on. Nobody has made that case that he was not given an opportunity to defend himself. Nobody has raised that issue. He chose his own lawyers. He had a right to remain silent and so on. All of those were observed. Now, the position of the law is also that if you're convicted by a competent court and you have reservations about the judgment or you think that the judgment was not proper and so on, there are processes of appeal. So you can go to the Court of Appeal, for the decision and argue that the decision should be reversed. And to that extent, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the decision of his lawyers and party lawyers who want to go to the Court of Appeal. That is the position of the law. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, even if the Court of Appeal should make a ruling or should make a determination which they still find unacceptable, they can still then move on to the Supreme Court. And even when the Supreme Court has made a decision, they can go for a review.
Yeah.
This is the position of the law.
Right.
So I cannot, in fairness, be arguing about the decision or the intention to go to the Court of Appeal. That is proper, that is right. It is the right of Wontumi to go to the Court of Appeal, and nobody can contest that. My problem is this, and my brother Collins had said so, that the case is a political case because he happens to be chairman of the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region. That's problematic. You understand? That is to suggest that a chairman of a party in the party stronghold cannot commit a crime. And that if he commits a crime and he's tried, it becomes a political case. That's a huge problem.
Well, not necessarily. Okay.
Explain to me.
If you say that he cannot commit a crime, I don't think that's what he suggested. He just meant that it's such a big blow to the party because this is a guy who chairs the party in their stronghold.
It doesn't make the case a political case.
He may have to explain why he thinks it's a political case. He may have to come back and explain that.
The fact of his being chairman of the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region, which is the stronghold of the party, does not make the case a political case.
Okay, that's a fair point.
That's the point I'm making. Now, the other ingredient, which my brother and friend, and Collins, I'm entitled to call you a brother and friend, I suppose.
I'm humbled.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The other point he makes is that, look, who prosecuted him? It's the Attorney General who prosecuted him. The Attorney General is a member of government. In fact, he sits in cabinet. And therefore, this is a political case. That's a huge problem. Okay. Now, we have made reference to these provisions of the Constitution over and over and over again. And I'm going to do so again today. This is the 1992 Constitution.
Okay.
In the 1992 Constitution, Chapter 88, Clause 1 says, "There shall be an Attorney General of Ghana who shall be a Minister of State and the principal legal advisor to government. The Attorney General shall discharge such other duties of a legal nature as may be referred or assigned to him by the President or imposed on him by this Constitution or any other law. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offenses." This is the Constitution. So if you make the argument that the fact that the Attorney General is a member of government, the cases he prosecutes become political cases, there's a huge problem. So by extension of logic, you'll be saying that the prosecution of Atai was a political case. So any case prosecuted by the Attorney General, by extension of logic, becomes a political case, in which case there can be no prosecutions in Ghana. That's a huge problem. Okay. Now, the other thing that I like to touch on is that we are always, anxious, and maybe legitimately so, to defend the rights and reputations of persons who are prosecuted or who, the judiciary has to make decisions on and so on. That's fair. I'm not worried about that. But in the process, we deliberately attack the integrity and reputation of persons who sit on the bench without justification. Because to say that this case was not judged on its merit and that it was a political case and that Chairman Wontumi is a political prisoner is to attack the integrity of the judge without foundation, without basis. Because they're saying that the High Court judge did not consider law, that the High Court judge was influenced politically in order to come to this conclusion. This is most unfair.
Have you heard about the ethnic considerations too? I don't want to repeat what the person put out on social media, and it became very topical.
I don't think we should even
Yes,
raise
yes,
that.
yes.
It's so nauseating.
Yeah.
It's sickening. You understand?
Yeah.
So nauseating and sickening. Horrible. Should not be permitted.
Yeah.
And especially when that is done by political leaders.
Yeah.
You understand? And come to think of it, this lady who sat on this case, from what I've learned so far, was appointed by the previous government. You understand? And I think that it would have been wrong if, for example, she had set Wontumi free and said that the case had no merit. To go to the root of who appointed her to make a determination as to whether the case was political or not.
Yeah.
Let's be fair to our judges. They are so unfair. For our own narrow political interest, we will destroy anybody's reputation. The same way you want to defend the rights of Wontumi, the same concerns, the same principles should guide you in the defense of the rights and reputation of those who sit on the bench. That's just being fair.
Absolutely.
It's just being fair. You cannot roast people who are on the bench just because they happen to carry out their professional duty and you don't like their style or you don't like their conclusions. That's most unfair to the bench. You understand? And I'm not happy with the way in which things are moving. Yes, there may be legal points, legal basis for appeal. Emphasize the legal basis for appeal. Go to the Court of Appeal and get a judgment and stop destroying a judge who, for all intents and purposes, may be innocent. You understand? We are not bound to agree with decisions of all the judges. Indeed, we have a right to criticize decisions of judges and so on. But to recklessly and without foundation seek to destroy their reputation and so on, it's unacceptable. Clearly unacceptable. And I insist on that. Now, one of the issues which has been raised, and this is a purely legal issue, and I discussed this person in all honesty as a layman, okay? I'm not a lawyer, but it's an issue which has been raised. And I'm entitled as a layman to discuss these matters because these are matters which affect all of us and so on. The point has been made that accused persons are not under obligation to, as it were, even speak during their trials. They can remain silent. They can refuse to answer questions and so on. Okay. So the proof of the offense must be established by the prosecution. The accused person has no obligation to prove his innocence.
That burden is not on them.
The burden is not on the accused person.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in this judgment, which I've read very carefully, and this morning I was asking for a copy, which you haven't given me, so I could do the
We'll do that.
properly.
It's on his way, sorry.
But Moro,
Yes, sir.
part of the judgment
Yes.
says that certain things were alleged against Wontumi,
Right.
and that in cross-examination, Wontumi did not respond to that.
Yes.
They were not challenged. And therefore, the court assumes that they are true.
Right.
That's a problem. That's a proper problem with the judgment. Okay? Because by extension, the argument the court is making is that because he did not challenge those assertions,
Yes.
especially during cross-examination, they must be held as valid.
Yes.
That imposes the burden on the accused person rather than on the prosecution.
Yes.
And I find this problematic. But this is a matter which will be pronounced on by the Court of Appeal. And maybe eventually even by the Supreme Court.
Right.
And there's a matter that dependent on what the Supreme Court and so on come to, may inure to the benefit of Chairman Wontumi.
Right.
So, now the other argument I've heard, and it's a very interesting argument, is that Chairman Wontumi was not involved in Galamsey.
Yes.
That's the argument which has been made.
Yes.
He was not charged for directly being involved in Galamsey.
True.
That was not the charge. The charge was that he had been given a concession and that he illegally, without appropriate authority, allowed another
third party
to mine in the concession.
Yes.
So the fact that he personally was not involved is neither here nor there. You understand?
But I'm going to say, before you go ahead to talk about whether it's neither here nor there, but you should also understand those who are seeking to set the record straight on that, because a certain impression is being made that Chairman Wontumi himself was on the field. You doing Galamsey. You know how sometimes we like to spin things, and that's why those who are correcting that are doing that. But yes, it's a fair point you've also made. You know, there was a certain narrative some people were trying to spin and to make it look as if he himself, as saying Chairman Wontumi, was on the field mining and doing Galamsey, and that's why Collins had to set the record straight on that.
The court didn't say that.
Yes, I know.
The court is clear. The court didn't say that.
I know.
And that was not the charge which had been brought against him.
It was actually a response to spinning doctors. Those who were spinning it and making it look like not what is here.
Are we going to base our decisions on social media things and so on? Obviously, that's not where we want to go.
Right.
When you are discussing such an important matter.
Right.
But you see, the judge herself averted herself to this question of the duty of an accused person and the duty of the prosecution in proving facts. And she referred to Justice Kwesi, who was then Chief Justice, in a ruling, a judgment which had been given. And she says, this is the judge who sat on the Wontumi case. She says, the law is well settled that there's no burden on the accused. She makes the point. If there's any burden at all on the accused, it is not to prove anything, but to raise a reasonable doubt. If the accused can raise only such a reasonable doubt, he must be acquitted. This is the judge who sat on the case. So it's not like she was not mindful of the fact that the accused person has no obligation to prove anything.
Yeah.
You know, she was mindful of that, and yet she came to this conclusion. In fact, she also deals with a certain matter which is very, very important, and that has to do actually with, I'll come to that later. She deals with a certain matter which is very, very, very important, you know. I'll come to that if I had it earlier, I would have marked those portions, but I'll come to that much later, you know. Let me make the other points.
As I said, the question for me is who is Wontumi?
Yeah.
He's the Ashanti Regional Chairman of my party, the NPP.
Yeah.
And we all know that the NPP has our biggest support base from the Ashanti region.
Yeah.
And so his incarceration is a significant development within the party. I have a personal relationship with him as my regional chairman. He's someone I called a friend. And so when I heard the news, I was devastated. And I'm still in shock. 20 years is a very, very, very long time. Wontumi just celebrated his 50th birthday. 20 years will mean if nothing happens, he should be coming out of the prison at 70. No. Uncle, see, just 20 years. I know the The prison has this.
The prison year is not 12
Yes, I know
months,
that.
yeah.
But I'm just looking at the 20 years. So he'll come out old, as an old man. And as I said, personally, it hurts. I'm not too sure it's something you wish for even your worst enemy, to be in isolation for that long. And I'm not surprised my party is describing it as a political
Reasoner.
case, because he's a very huge political figure. The prosecution was done by the government, led by the Deputy Attorney General. So this is a political case. You can't describe it any other way. It's the government represented by its Attorney General against Chairman Wontumi, who happens to be the chairman for the most popular region for my party. Yesterday or 2 days ago, the vetting of the regional executive took place. And it was in the morning. Whilst they were preparing for the vetting, the news broke up. And you can imagine the chaos that erupted, the sadness, the mood within the constituency. So it is a very sad day. I'm not a lawyer. I've taken my time to read the judgment. I've listened to other lawyers from my party, other neutral people, and they all have their own interpretation as to what the judgment meant. I've heard others argue that this was extremely harsh. Others also argue that the judge did a good job. As their counsel say, when they are constructing the road and it doesn't hit your house, oh, this road is beautiful. But when the road hits your wall, you start complaining. So those who say it's a beautiful judgment, they are saying so for a reason. Those who are not excited, they're also saying so for a reason. I'm not excited because I have a very, very personal relationship with him. And if not for anything at all, he belongs to my political party. Now, you are told that Chairman Wontumi has been jailed for galamsey. I've listened to some lawyers, and in my reading of the judgment, it's quite clear to me that he was not involved personally in galamsey. He had been given a concession, and he, as it were, gave the right to others. The argument is that he did not have that right to have given that right, and that he should have gone through a certain process. That was not done. And so they've gone to the law, and the law says once you do not do that, you have found foul of the law. And they've meted this very harsh judgment on him. Now, the issue of galamsey is quite an interesting one, because I heard the president himself, and yesterday you were arguing with two lawyers whether the president did admit that his own people were involved in galamsey.
Right.
And I have here the quote from the president.
Right.
This is from the president himself. And this quote was done in March of this year. The president said, even our own people are involved. Mahama on challenges in galamsey fights.
Right.
So the president himself has admitted that some members of his own political party are involved in galamsey. And then last year, we were told by the Attorney General that he has directed Yoko to investigate two key members of the NDC. This was on the 15th of July, 2025. It's been 1 year. We are told that Mr. Joseph Yamin, who happens to be the organizer, and one other gentleman called Abanga Yakubu, who happens to be the vice chair of the NDC. Wontumi's case started when, if you could help me. When did Wontumi's case start?
I mean, his prosecution?
His prosecution.
Last year.
Last year.
Yes.
So interestingly, Wontumi's case started last year.
Yeah. Must have been March thereabout.
March thereabout.
Yeah.
But the states, led by the Attorney General, have been able to go through all the processes within 1 year, and they have incarcerated Wontumi. But the state, as we speak now, is still investigating after 1 year.
I agree with you. It's taking too long.
Well, let me make my argument where people have challenges.
Yeah.
The same Wontumi, they say he's involved in Galamsey. Within a year, he's been prosecuted, convicted, and as we speak, he's in Nsawam. The same Attorney General, who with speed of light has gone through prosecution and jailed Wontumi, is now telling us after 1 year that they are yet to get any report from Yoko. No problem. We don't have any problem. Let me read a story from the 4th Estate for you. Also on the same Galamsey issues. This was published, I just missed it. It was published on September 9th. It was in relation to a member of parliament for Honey Valley. You will recall a few months ago, I think somewhere earlier this year or maybe late last year, when a member of parliament were told, allegedly led a mob to attack Naimos. And the speaker, even on the floor, had a cause to direct that the member of parliament should avail himself to the CID for investigation. Here we are. Nothing has happened. You and I know that Galamsey is still ongoing. The president himself has acknowledged that his people, his own members of parliament, are involved in Galamsey. But curious, very, very interestingly, it's only Wontumi who has gone through the process and has been convicted. But we are still waiting for the reports on the others. No problem. So if my party says this is political witch hunting, I get where they are coming from. But as the guys will say, be enta. Be enta. Me, it be here a day. Wontumi has been jailed. As I sit here, there's nothing I can do about it. The only thing I can say is to pray for him, is to pray for his family, is to wish my political party, especially in the Ashanti region, some strength as we go through this very dangerous and slippery times as a political party. I'm told his lawyers are preparing to file an appeal. I hope that on the basis of what his lawyers have told us, we may get some favorable response, at least from the appeals court. Let's see how it goes. At that point, I'm sure we'll make further comments. But for now, I wish him good health wherever he is. We'll continue to pray with him. I'm sure the party has a series of activities to join him, to comfort the family. As members of parliament yesterday, we saw us clad in black to show our solidarity with this unfortunate incident. Let's see how it goes. But it's a very interesting development that the president himself is telling us that some of his people are involved in Galamsey, but I've not heard any prosecution in our courts concerning his people. But Wontumi within a year has been fast-tracked and now is incarceration. Let's see how it goes. May the Lord be with him. We pray with him. 20 years is a very, very, very long time. But I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Is it that Is your challenge with what appears to be from your submission a case of selective justice, or you still think that based on everything that you've heard and everything you've read from the documents, you still think that Wontumi?
I'm surprised you're even.
Wontumi did no wrong.
No, I'm surprised you're even asking me whether it's a case of selective justice.
Right.
Is it not clear to everybody? The president himself is saying that his people are involved in Galamsey. Nobody has been prosecuted.
Okay.
The Attorney General himself told us that he has referred key members of the party to Yoko. A year ago, the same time Wontumi's case started. We've not heard anything from them. So it's not about me saying it. It's palpable. It's clear for everybody to see how selective it is.
I get it. My question is your concern the matter of selective justice, or your concern has to do with the basis upon which Wontumi was incarcerated? Which is more important to you? Both.
Yes.
Okay. So you disagree with the reasons that the court gave?
Absolutely.
And also
the party has come out clearly with our.
All right. I just need
but of course, we can disagree with the courts.
Yeah, that's not.
If you have the right to disagree with the
courts.
Yes, and that is why we are going to an appeal.
Okay.
Any appeal is a critique of the previous judgment.
Okay.
And so that point must be made.
All right.
I'm not PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.